Mark, put the dog down. Put the dog down. Bye.
Can't help myself.
Hi everyone,
It's
and welcome to the video update. Thanks for being on our mailing list. And Mark and I just wanted to give you an update of where things stand with the book, which is really good news. We just had a call with the publisher a little while ago, and Mark, everything's full steam ahead, hey, for an October 4th or October 9th publication date.
You know what? I keep hearing. I have different versions recorded. October 4th, October 14th, October 10th. I think October 9th is an interview which we had to reschedule.
Right.
But it's I think we've talked about this before too, is at each step of the way, this whole process makes the book seem that more real. And it's hard to believe as you get to the new stage, like right now, where the book is now going through layout and spelling and grammar, basically. It's essentially done. That you kind of feel like, oh, I can't believe I felt that it was a book before, because now it's a book.
Yeah, very much so. All of a sudden, there's noise outside my office. Can you hear that, or is it okay?
I can't hear your noise because I got garbage collection going on.
Well, we're good then. See, that's the quality of a good microphone. Anyway, so update. So it's off to the races. We're basically through the copy editing phase. There's a person indexing the book, which we didn't realize we had to do, but of course has to get done. And in fact, we just found out that the pre-sales are going like bonkers, and our publisher has made our book in their next catalog the editor's choice for foreign distribution rights. So they're expecting lots of sales, I guess, in Europe and Asia. And so
apparently, though, we are not invited to Frankfurt for that whole. Apparently, it's a big show where I guess publishers go and they promote their international catalog or their foreign sales catalog.
Yeah,
and so they're trying to push our book.
1600s too. This conference, so it's like literally the 1600s.
Yeah,
pretty amazing. So we also wanted to just kind of give you a sense of the stuff that's in the book as we're finalizing it. Mark, we were talking just before we started recording this about some of the stories and some of the sort of methods in the book that are designed to help people use business technology and not have the humanity of business removed as a result. And what was the one that you were going to mention?
So I wanted to tie something actually to something that's happened recently, because I was on CBC Fredericton on Monday morning. That was July 21st or something like that. Because there was the storm recently, the hurricane. Okay, you can hop down now. There's a hurricane that affected New Brunswick in recent weeks. And some areas were out of power and internet, and so I know it's horrific. Power and cell phone and Wi-Fi and internet and all that stuff for as many as 12 days. And what people discovered, of course, is that cell phone batteries, they're only good for a certain amount of time, and if you don't have power, you can't charge it. Yeah. Somebody was saying that you go to your car and charge it, of course, if you have an inverter, which I guess some people probably did. But you're pretty much out of luck if you have no power, you can't charge your phone. And so that was one problem. And then, of course, a lot of people who have phones in their house, even if they're old telephones, are now cordless. And so once the power's out, those cordless phones don't work.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the internet problem. So while I was on the interview,
although, it's kind of an interesting side note is that back in the old days of landlines, the phone line carried a very tiny amount of power, which is why your phone, if you had an old school landline, which not many people do still, your phone would work in a power failure. But yeah, now that everyone is switched to cordless phones and cell phones, it's you can't rely on that anymore.
Yeah, well, I used to work for Bell, and in 2003 there was a power outage that affected the whole eastern seaboard, not you guys out in the west. We're out of power for about 10 or 11 days then as well.
Wow.
Now, we have an old telephone, and we actually have, we have a POTS line, a plain old telephone analog phone line. And we had an old phone in the basement that we dug out and we plugged in. And yeah, I mean, we couldn't call our neighbors or anybody else in the city or anybody else in the eastern seaboard, but we could call 911 if we had to. We could call family around the world, which it becomes a bit of an insurance policy at that point. Anyway, so I related this story about getting rid of old tech too soon, kicking it to the curb, which is something that I've spoken out against, because we've kept our phone line as a result. It's an expensive insurance policy, but when you're out of power for 12 days and you have this option, that's you need it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was actually telling me this morning about something called UMA, which I guess is a VoIP service that works quite well if you have a battery backup. Of course, it'll last days on a battery backup. So that's another option. But if your cable service is out and your cable modem doesn't work and all that stuff, you've got to make sure all that stuff is backed up. But what I wanted to relate as part of the story and why I was on the interview is Rogers is offering rebates to customers who are affected by this outage. Bell is not. Bell has
Oh,
said that,
interesting.
yeah, exactly. Now, they are probably within their rights legally. They
Yeah.
probably constructed their agreement, and Rogers as well, that if there's an extended outage due to acts of God, we'll call them, weather problems, etc., that they're not obliged to offer a rebate.
Right.
So from a PR perspective, what Rogers is doing is brilliant. I think they should go one better, which is instead of making people call for their rebate, and so you have to sit in a phone queue, and everybody's going to be calling right now. Just give it,
Just
right?
automatically give it to everyone in the
Yeah,
area. Yeah, absolutely.
that's right.
And I mean, that's the kind of thing that where it goes above and beyond. I mean, it's not that difficult to do. It's probably, we all know the cell phone companies have enormous profits, especially on where they make their money on roaming and data and everything. It's not like they don't have the money to be able to do that. So yeah, it totally makes sense.
And it reminded me of a story that's in our book, actually, about Southwest Airlines, a flight that was delayed landing because of a snowstorm. And when people came off the jetway, of course, they were frustrated and concerned about the fact that they'd missed their connections. Well, as it turns out, some resourceful Southwest employees figured out which connections people had and that had been missed, and proactively rebooked people on flights. So as they were walking at the jetway, they were calling out names, they were asking people to come forward and collect their tickets, and they just handed them out. Here's your new connection ticket.
Yeah.
So that's the great examples of touch. And as we continue this podcast series, and then of course as the book comes out in October 4th, 9th, 10th, or 14th, somewhere around there, you'll hear more and understand more about these concepts that we introduce.
And it makes so much sense, I mean, a similar kind of thing happened to me where I had a CIBC AeroGold card, and CIBC lost the contract with Aeroplan, so TD got it. So we all, TD did this transition for us, and it was mostly seamless, except if you had pre-authorized payments. And those, for whatever reason, did not connect in some cases. So we got a letter from TD saying, really sorry, by the way, we're going to credit you with 2,000 Aeroplan points, but you had to go to a website to do it. So fair enough, at least everyone got the letter and had the opportunity, instead of where it sounds like what you had, which is they had to call in, complain, and then find out that there was this kind of thing. But honestly, why not just sort of, give that to everyone? And there's obviously a cost involved, but there's something nice about, you have to think about yourself as a consumer of these things if you run a business, What is the least effort for the consumer that you need to do to make them feel good about your brand?
Well, and think about the PR capital that you get from an event like that. Like, even if you didn't have an outage, the whole area was affected. So just all the residents of New Brunswick or Fredericton who are, you'll get a rebate. Or maybe if you really want to restrict it, you can say, okay, it's only if you were affected. I don't think anybody in BC is going to complain. And in fact, they're going to go, you know what, Rogers looks out for its people.
Yeah.
And I would hope that I'd get the same exact service. But I hope I never have to get it. But I hope I would get the same exact service. So I'm going to buy into Rogers when I have to renew my plan or I have to do whatever. I have to admit, I tell a story that's not so favorable about Rogers in the book. However, Rogers, everybody does good stuff. Everybody does suspicious stuff, or not, or stuff that doesn't look so good, I guess is a better way to say it.
Yeah.
So, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that what Rogers is doing is very much a step in the right direction.
And the downside is that if you don't do that and you anger people have enormous bullhorns with Twitter and so on. I caught myself in a bit of a jam, accidentally, entirely my fault. And this story is actually fully in the book as well, the full story. But
It's a great story.
Well, for you, because it didn't happen to you. So I was in Seattle giving a speech, and I was staying at the Westin Hotel in Seattle, or one of them, I think they were a few. And I had forgotten, as I am wont to do, all of my toiletries. I'll either forget them at home, or I'll just leave them in the, after you clear airport security, I'll just leave them in the bin, because I'm an idiot. So something happened, and I left all my toiletries somewhere. So I called the front desk of the Westin. The Westin is a nice hotel, it's not a low end hotel, and I figured, that all I really need is a razor. So I said, I called the front desk and I said, I've left my toiletries at home. Can you guys send up a razor? And the operator said, yeah, that's no problem. That'll be $24.95. And then she said goodbye, and I said goodbye, and I hung up. And it happened really fast, right? She said that'll be 24. She said that's $24.95 is the phrase she used. And I got off the phone. I'm like, $25 for a cheap plastic Bic razor that's going to cut me 12 times to Sunday? So instead of clarifying the issue, here's what I did, and what I think a lot of people do, and this is where a lot of organizations get themselves caught, is by these sort of reactive jerks like me on Twitter. So I went on to Twitter, and I'm like, the Westin's going to charge me $24.95 or $23.95, whatever it is, for a cheap razor. Like, any cheap ass hotel will give me that for free. To their credit, and here is why social media monitoring is so critically important. To their credit, they got back to me almost immediately. So someone at Westin headquarters was monitoring the Westin.
Well, they knew you were in the hotel, right?
Well, clearly, yes. Yeah, exactly. And they called the front desk, and the front desk person called me and apologized and said, "We're going to send it up to you. It's no charge. By the way, so you know, the operator was saying back your room number to you." So she said, that'll be $24.95. In other words, that'll be room number $24.95. But I reacted really quickly. And that happens to a lot of organizations, you know.
Can you imagine if you're in like a 53-story hotel?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. People just kind of jump right in. So it's problematic. And one of the things that we do in the book, obviously, is we go through how do you respond to that. And, Mark, you've got such a great section, especially in the leadership area, on the tone that businesses need to take around, how do you apologize the right way, take ownership of a responsibility, and still use it to still get some business benefit out of it. And then we talk about the SWARM methodology, which we wrote in the book, which is 5 steps, sometimes as easy as 5 simple sentences, that will actually reverse the damage that has happened when you get negative feedback online. So we're pretty excited. I think, at least I'm pretty excited about being able to present these ideas. I mean, you and I have been speaking, all over places, talking about these things. We never really kind of put it together in a book.
It's exciting to see how it's all come together. And I love this other thing, and just I guess by way of wrapping up, and people probably have seen the book cover now, is I love the hand, right? And I love the fact that, SWARM is 5 letters and touch is 5 letters. And, you have this little mnemonic you carry with you everywhere you go, and you just remember, oh yeah, TOUCH or SWARM, and then you can kind of remind yourself the steps that you have to go through in order to be more successful.
I used to own the trademark Assured ROI. In fact, I might even still own it. And I was going to create this whole big sort of brand extension. So everything was going to be like Assured ROI. It was going to be a line of speeches and books and everything. I had these grand world domination plans for it. And I was trying to apply it to this presentation that I give on viral marketing. And what I did was I analyzed 50 of the world's most successful viral marketing campaigns to see what elements they had common to them. And I was really hoping there would be 7 elements that were common, because then I could figure out an ASSURED, right? I could have it spell something, right?
Yeah.
But the data didn't support 7. The data supported 6. And I could get all the letters fitting right, but I never did get a U. So my acronym just says ASRED. And I actually own the domain assred.com. I use it in speeches. It's like, if you want to copy the slides, it's assred.com.
Nice. Oh, but you know what? I've got to tell another story. I know I said we should wrap up, but you brought up ROI. This is a completely unrelated story, but I think it's kind of funny because it ties to social media. Because us early adopters, one of the things that we were very proud of is the fact that it was all about the social. It was all about the relationships and the connections. And we called it return on influence, right, is building these relationships and having some sort of role. And so the whole concept of ROI was about eschewing the financial side. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that happened is I got this returnoninfluence.com website with my buddy from Seattle. And we had these grand plans for it, which we never actually really followed through on. And then I got a phone call or an email one day from somebody asking if I was going to use it. And I'm one of these people that if you own something and you're not using it, just collecting dust. Like I have an audio mixer, a Mackie mixer, which I just gave away because it sat in my basement for so long. I thought, well, you know what? It's past the point where I really should sell it. It's more to the point now where I should just give it to somebody who could do something with it. Yeah. So I ended up selling it for a song to, I can't remember the guy's name now, Mark something or other, the guy who put out the book, Return on Influence. So the one thing that I've made a big profit on, like the actual social media piece that I've made money off of, is the returnoninfluence.com domain, which was not about making money. So I didn't mark it up greatly. I just figured I'd recover some of my money and get something for it. And so it was a small little chunk of change that my buddy was trying to convince me we should mark it up more. I was like, you know what? It's money we didn't have yesterday or today. Yeah. Right. And so, I think we sold it for like $600.
Oh my God. What? Oh, Mark, we need to talk.
Return on influence,
I need
right?
to be your businessman.
You know what? I kind of thought, though, I was going to get a free copy of the book, and I never did.
At the
And by the way, I didn't know at the time it was a book project. I figured it was going to be some sort of money-making thing. But, good karma, maybe, is what I'm clever about.
Maybe, yeah. So, oh, by the way, before we go, also, really quickly, in the last 30 seconds here, our new book's website is out. It's still a little... so there's touchthebook.com. There you go. You're highlighting the zone. Yeah, I'll put that in. And it's and it's still under development, but it's cool. And we've got a sample section from a chapter up there as well. And of course, there's a link to pre-order, because you can pre-order the book right now on Amazon. And early October, at some point.
Yeah.
Early October. And thanks again for being on the mailing list. And we'll get back to you again in a few weeks and give you another update, tell you more stories from the book, and that's it. All right. Thanks. Enjoy the whatever you are there, the Sunyet Lee Gardens or something.
I'm in our backyard. I'm enjoying some seltzer water and some Neil Brothers chips.
Excellent.
And so it's a nice. It's gotten more comfortable today.
Well, I have chips as well, and I am downing these stupid energy shots, which is my next vice to quit. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Take care.